evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. I think we'll have other council members that will join us in a bit, but the beginning of our presentation is from our staff, and so you will get to hear from them, and then as other council members come, they will get to hear from you. My name is Andrea Boo. I am chair of the Finance Committee. I represent the 6th District at large, and I just want to welcome you all to our second public budget meeting. And it is a pleasure to be in this beautiful facility. This is actually my first time of being here. And so thank you to the Woodneath Library for having us here tonight. This is a very important process in our budget, and that is because we hear from you. We hear from you about your priorities, and this year is our first year of our priority-based budgeting. And that is something that you will hear more from our budget officer about what priority-based budgeting is. But I will give you the very short version, and that is making sure the way we spend the taxpayer dollars aligns with the priorities that you have told us through our citywide business plan that we have adopted. And so that is a process that is much different than we've done in the past, which is just carrying over the previous year's budget. And so it is important that we hear from you as we continue to go through the cycle of a budget and adopting the citywide business plan so that we know our priorities continue to align. So I'm going to be very brief. I'm going to let my colleagues here introduce themselves and welcome you as well. I did want to note, in addition to the council members and the city manager that's here, we have the mayor's policy director, Catherine Nace, who is here on the second row. And also Don Kramer, the chair of the Board of Police Commissioners, is here. Just thank you, Don, wave your hand. And we have staff that is with us from our budget officers, or the finance team, to other members of our city staff. And if you're a member, I'm going to do this at the beginning because I waited and forgot and didn't do it until the end last time. So if you're a member of the city staff, would you please stand up? Thank you. We could not do what we do if it wasn't for the staff of the city, who we adopt the policy, but it's the city staff that implement it. So I'm going to turn it over to Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Councilwoman Boo. Good evening, everybody. I am your Mayor Pro Tem. I'm 5th District Councilwoman Raina Park Shaw, and I'm really excited about this year's budget. As the Councilwoman stated, it's our first year of implementing priority-based budget, and it took us 3 years actually to get to this point. I was honored to lead the initiative and work with the finance department staff to bring this to the city, as it is a best practice where many other municipalities across the country have been utilizing this as a budget process. And I tell you, the reason why it was so important to me is definitely it empowers your voice. It empowers the voice of the community, of the residents, so that we prioritize what's most important to you. But when it really became evident that we needed to update the way that we do our budgeting is when we went through COVID, and across the board, because we weren't sure how to, what the impact of COVID would mean to us, we across the board tried to do an 11% cut across the board. And the reason why I knew that it didn't work, that wasn't the best way to do that, is because many of us were staying home, and your trash bill would have gone up. We were seeing people's trash increase by 30%. And so to cut our solid waste budget like we do across the board didn't work, because people were throwing away more trash as they were home. And in that moment, I realized we needed to come up with a better way. We can't just arbitrarily continue to just move forward from year to year, that we need to base our budget based upon the priorities and based upon the ebbs and flows of how the economy works. And so I'm really excited and want to thank the staff for their work over the last 3 years to get us to this priority-based budgeting process. And thank you all for being here tonight. You being here shows us that this is very important, and we are ready to hear your voice. So I will sit down and be quiet so I can take some notes. Thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you all for being here and showing up. I appreciate Chairwoman Boo for organizing and setting out a transparent process for the budget cycle. Appreciate that. If you guys want to know, if you're going to print off the budget, it's 751 pages. I like a paper copy. My colleagues are in the digital age. But I promise to read all of it. And I also want to thank the police commissioner, chair, for being here, and appreciate your all's transparency in the police budget, getting it sooner. Last fiscal year, the police submitted their budget request in October, which was the earliest I think that we've ever had it before. So they really increased their transparency and have worked to do a lot better job on that. So appreciate your effort on that. Thank you. Oh, I'm Nathan Willett, 1st District Councilman, and welcome to the 1st District.
Should always start off introducing yourself. just joking. Good afternoon, or good evening now, I guess. My name is Darrell Curls. I'm 5th District at Large Councilman, and I want to welcome you all here this evening as well. I'm a strong believer in community engagement, so this gives us an opportunity to hear your concerns, your issues, and your priorities, because that's what we are here for. And I want to make sure that everybody understands that we are here to listen. We are here to make sure that we understand what you are sharing with us, and we do take your priorities to heart. You know, a lot of people think that we just come here and it's a show and we just do it just because we have to do it or whatever it is. But really, when we go back and we deliberate as a council, we really do take into consideration everything that we hear from you. So I hope that everybody in this audience has an opportunity to share what your priorities or what you feel the city's priorities should be based upon your priorities. That's what we're here for. So I made a comment at the last meeting that we have about 500-something thousand people we represent. I would love to have seen more people here, but I'm glad that you're here this evening, and maybe as Councilwoman Boo indicated to me last meeting, we got one more budget meeting to go. Maybe we'll have the other 390-something people out at that particular meeting. But if not, we're here to listen to you, and we do take your concerns and your priorities seriously. So thank you again. And I also want to thank the staff, because this it's not easy work. Putting it together, this book, I requested this book because I'm not in the digital age. But I want to thank you again for getting it to us, and I'm going to sit down so that we can hear from you. Thank you.
Hello, City Manager Brian Platt here. Thank you all for being here. I just want to thank the staff in particular for being here tonight. We've got some department directors. You can just wave. I see Forrest in the back, Tammy, Kimiko. We've got former directors here. Jane Brown, who used to be a director. Doug Jones, used to be city auditor. I saw him back there somewhere. It's an important moment for us because, as the council member said, and I'll echo, none of this happens without the people who live here, the stakeholders, the people that really matter. We're here to listen to you. This document, the budget, is based on the priorities of you. It's not based on what we think should be done in the city. It's what you think. And so this is an ongoing conversation. This team, Krista and the budget team, start in August, really, starting to work through this. It takes months to put this document together. And we've been through some really tough times in this city. COVID and the economic downturn that it caused wreaked havoc on our budget, on our revenues, on everything. And I'm really proud of this team for getting us through that moment in our what is now our strongest fiscal position ever. We're able to deliver more services, better services, be more responsive and proactive to your needs, while also having a very, very strong foundation financially. It's really important to us that we can do the things that we do just so easily. So thank you to Krista, thank you to Tammy and the entire finance team that's here, and all of you. And with that, handing it off to Krista. Take it away.
All right, well, good evening, everyone. My name is Krista Morrison. I'm the budget officer for Kansas City, and I want to thank you all for coming out on your Monday evening to learn more about Kansas City's budget and participate in the budget process. That is when we are great as a city, is when we are listening to you, what your priorities are, and that is exactly what this council is doing and prioritizing. that we will have 3 sessions to focus on public input, and I'll talk more about those ahead, but your input does matter. And I watch the City Council each and every year make changes to the submitted budget before it's adopted based on input from these very sessions. I also want to thank our elected officials. This is a tireless job, but that they take the time to spend really listening and deliberating on Kansas City's budget every year. There are never enough resources to support all of the requests throughout the city, and very tough decisions have to be made. So I do want to thank this very hardworking City Council for their time during this process to really come out, engage with the public, and hear what the needs are. So I'm going to jump in with an overview of Kansas City's submitted budget being considered by this City Council. The budget is available right now on kcmo.org/budget, and the budget is broken out in various sections. It is a large document, but it's meant to be where you can look at Kansas City's budget in various views. So if you have just time not to read the full 750-some pages, what I would suggest that you do look at are a couple of sections, the first being the transmittal letter and the second being the budget overview. The transmittal letter is prepared by our city manager, and it covers major highlights of items changing between the current budget and this budget being considered right now by the City Council. The second section is the budget overview, and it talks about just general highlights and changes in the budget. But there are other sections that if you do have time, I would encourage you to look at. The program and activity pages, that breaks out the budget at the department level view. So if you're wondering how much is funded for our conventions department, for our water department, there's a section called program and activities pages for that. We also have a capital and debt overview section. So Kansas City plans its capital budget 5 years forward. So you can see how Kansas City and this council is prioritizing the capital dollars for improvements around Kansas City. There's also fund schedules where you can look and see for every source of city funding, whether it's the public safety sales tax, the park sales tax. It breaks down the budget in various views. So the budget itself is broken down by City Council priorities. This City Council and every City Council, when they take office, develop a citywide business plan for the city. And it's based on resident engagement, and I would really encourage you to look for those meetings because that's really what drives resource allocation every year. So the goals of this City Council are inclusive growth and development, finance and governance, housing and healthy communities, public safety, and infrastructure and accessibility. So when you look at the budget, you can see how much is funded by each of these goals and the departments contained. The citywide business plan, if you wish to learn more, is available on kcmo.org/budget, but it is the underlying guide for how resources are prioritized, really to support meeting goals of this city. So the submitted budget for fiscal year 25-26 is a $2.5 billion budget. The budget is broken down into 2 categories. The governmental activities, so that is everything except for our water and aviation department. Our water and aviation departments are considered business type activities, and they're separate because the fees for those funds can only support those operations. So a high-level view of Kansas City's revenue, where the money comes from, this is a breakdown of Kansas City's budget overall. So over in the red is what's called business-type activities. That's approximately a third of Kansas City's budget. That's the water department and the aviation department. And those fees can only support those specific operations and services. The next third of Kansas City's budget is special revenue, debt funds, and capital funds. This third of Kansas City's budget is also restricted by use. It's restricted by use for what voters and what authorizing authority tells us we can use that money for. For example, park sales tax. voted by Kansas City voters in 2012 falls in this category. We can only use the revenue that comes into that fund to support the operations of the park system. The remaining third of Kansas City's budget, this over on the bottom left, is the general fund. That is the least restrictive of sources of revenue for Kansas City, but it also supports some of the most important priorities of residents that we hear from, and we'll talk more about that ahead. So this is our submitted budget, expenditures by goal. So how is the money spent? And this is a breakdown by council goal. The business type activities on the right is infrastructure and accessibility. That's our water and aviation departments. All the money we receive, a third of Kansas City's budget, can only be used for those purposes. In the governmental activities, that's $1.6 billion, the other 2/3 of Kansas City's budget. The largest category of where this budget considers spending its dollars is in public safety. 41.6% of Kansas City's budget is focused on public safety. That's the municipal court, the fire department, and the police department. The next category here is infrastructure and accessibility at 20.6%. That is followed by housing and healthy communities at 19%. You'll see the next category of inclusive growth and development at 9.8% and finance and governance at 9%. So what does that look like in dollars? And you'll see here, I think this is important, is what's happening in the right. So the right two columns show us the difference between our current adopted budget, what's being considered for submittal, and the percentage change. This is a little deceiving in the finance and governance area because the majority of that 21.3% increase are one-time investments. They're one-time investments for improvements in city facilities at $10 million, and then also approximately $10 million for a new ERP system. It's the system that supports all of the financial procurement and HR operations of the city. Those are really the key drivers of that increase. But the largest increase outside of that in Kansas City's budget is the category of public safety, increasing $71.9 million or 11.7%. And then you'll see here the growth for the other areas of infrastructure and accessibility at 5.4%, housing and healthy communities at 4.4%. We'll talk ahead about highlights and specific areas changing in each of these goals. So what does Kansas City's budget look like in a different view? And this shows our view by council goal, but also by dollars at the department level. So the largest amount of funding in Kansas City's budget is public safety. So probably no surprise, our largest department funded for Kansas City is a police department at $343.3 million, followed by our fire department at $321.5 million. And then the next largest department for the city falls under infrastructure and accessibility. That's our public works department at $230.5 million. They are supporting our roadways, our bridge improvements across the city, as well as important programs like trash and recycling. I won't go through each of these, but this is just another view. It's also available on the budget website in Budget Overview. So anytime programs are being asked to be added in Kansas City's budget or expansions of existing services, this is the fund, the general fund, the least restrictive of our resources that we're often looking at as the source of revenue. Because so much of our budget, approximately 2/3 of it, is restricted. So this is general fund revenue in the submitted budget. The largest source of revenue in that fund is earnings tax. The earnings tax represents 44.4% of the general fund. And then you'll see here other categories such as utility tax at 13.5%, local use tax at 13%, property tax at 10.3%. I won't go through each of these, but this is really where the money's coming from to support those operations. The next slide represents how that money is spent. So in the general fund, 72.8% of the general fund is supporting the public safety departments of police, fire, and municipal court. Finance and governance is the next largest category at 13.3%. 12.1% is housing and healthy communities. And then you'll see inclusive growth and development of 1.1 and infrastructure and accessibility at 0.7%. So you heard the finance chair, our finance chair, Boo, as well as the mayor pro tem, Raina Park Shaw, speak about the general fund balance and priority-based budgeting. This is, if you see in the fiscal year 26 submitted budget and forward, this budget being submitted has a structural imbalance, drawing down fund balance. We are in a position right now, if you look at the estimated second quarter 25 column, City Manager Brian Platt mentioned we are in a strong fiscal position because of the strength in the economy coming out of COVID. So the blue line up top is a 3-month emergency reserve. The red line floor is a 2-month emergency reserve. Why that is so important and why it's so important that the City Council prioritize this is our first year of COVID, we almost spent this entire reserve down. So this is a very important metric for the health of the city so that we can ensure that we can continue delivering these services. But why I bring this up today is that this budget has a structural imbalance. And your voice being out here today, as well as in future meetings, is so important because we cannot continue this trend of a structural imbalance with expenditures exceeding revenue. So we, and priority-based budgeting, we'll talk more about that ahead, is a strategic approach to tackling this challenge. So what that looks like in numbers for the general fund, and this is supporting all of our non-restrictive services for the city. You saw the chart. The majority of that is our fire, our police, and our municipal court for the city in that fund. That fund also supports important programs like recycling and trash for the city. In the column that says 25-26, this budget being considered by this city council will draw down $64.6 million of that fund balance reserve. We will still be with that above our emergency reserve, our target of 25%. So that is a good position to be, but certainly a challenge for this city and these elected officials ahead, and why your voice in this process matters. So what are we doing? You heard the Mayor Pro Tem talk about across-the-board cuts. That is how Kansas City has faced these challenges in the past. There is nothing wrong with that. It works. It works until you have a period of downturn, multiple years like COVID. It is not strategic just to give every department the same cut, because during that time, trash service looked different. More people were working from home, and the amount of trash that needed to be picked up did increase. So priority-based budgeting is meant to look just like that at strategies. It is a best practice by ICMA and Government Finance Officers Association, and it matches resources according to the goals set in the citywide business plan. So moving forward, we've built the framework in this budget year to start to tackle this structural imbalance, and to do so in a way that's strategic, that looks at alignment of goals set in the citywide business plan. It also looks at access, mandates. Some programs we're required by law, by federal law, by state law to deliver. It looks at cost recovery, the number of the population served, and any changes. How much does the community need that service, and how reliant are you? So we're really reframing how we budget for Kansas City, and at the core of it is resident priorities. So then when we do have to look at making reductions ahead, they are aligned to the highest and greatest needs of the community. So I will just touch on highlights in this budget. I cannot cover every change in this budget, but this is meant to touch on highlights, and then we'll turn it over for you all to provide feedback. So first is housing and healthy communities. This budget focuses on clean and safe neighborhoods by increasing funding for dangerous building demolition by $1.7 million for total funding of $5.2 million. This budget adds $1.4 million for illegal dumping enforcement for total funding of $2.4 million. This budget includes $8 million dedicated to violence prevention and intervention. This budget fully funds the implementation of trash and recycling carts that we've been implementing for the last couple of fiscal years under the city manager. This budget maintains the expanded bulky item operations, as well as adding a team dedicated to maintenance at Brush Creek. This budget expands the Rebuild KC program for neighborhood grants. This was a program started during the American Rescue Plan to support neighborhoods with a grant program. Those federal dollars have ended, but understanding the impact of that to the community, the city council and the city manager are extending the program with general fund dollars in the submitted budget. This budget is year 3 of 3 for $1 million annually added to the budget to plant 10,000 trees during that time frame. This budget also focuses on housing security and supporting those experiencing homelessness. The Affordable Housing Initiative that is so important for probably all of us. This is year 3 of 4 of an annual $12.5 million investment for $50 million total in the Housing Trust Fund, just focusing on affordable housing initiatives. This budget maintains $2.6 million for the Right to Counsel program, supporting those facing eviction from their homes and their apartments. This budget adds $1 million to the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. This was previously funded by federal grant dollars. Those dollars are now exhausted, but understanding the need is in the community, this budget proposes funding $1 million from the general fund. This budget expands emergency shelter beyond extreme weather with the addition of $1 million and dedicates $750,000 for homeless encampment cleanup. That was previously managed by your service departments, the Parks Department, the Public Works Department, but this dedicates resources to that initiative so those departments can continue doing their services without taking from resources elsewhere. This budget maintains $1.1 million for small business support. In the area of public safety, again, this represents the largest expenditure in Kansas City's budget. For governmental activities, that represents 41.6% of the budget, and in the general fund, that represents 72.8%. The budget is increasing $70.9 million, and the budget prioritizes public safety officers, increasing wages and benefits to ensure that our Kansas City Police Department and Fire Department can recruit and retain quality public safety officers. This budget also adds $1 million to support the safety needs around entertainment districts in the community. In the area of infrastructure and accessibility, this budget continues funding sidewalks and ADA improvements with $7.5 million of annual GO bond funding approved by voters in 2017 and dedicates $14.6 million for improvements of sidewalks, specifically around elementary schools throughout the city. This budget adds $3 million for Vision Zero. That's the city's initiative for safer roads for both pedestrians and those driving motor vehicles, for its highest funding of $8 million for that initiative. And this budget provides $34 million for neighborhood preservation projects for those engaged in the PIAC process every year. That is where neighborhoods and you as residents can come out and say, this priority is important, and this sidewalk, this park, and work with your council district and PIAC representatives for that opportunity to have that improvement. This budget adds $3 million for the city's continued streetlight conversion to LED lights and maintains the enhanced snow removal operations that the city manager started approximately 2 years ago? 3 years ago. Okay, inclusive growth and development. This budget adds $500,000 for contract management division and additional advocacy services in the Civil Rights and Equal Opportunity Office, and adds $2.5 million for maintenance and event support at the city's convention facilities. This budget reorganizes our city planning and development department to promote efficiencies while continuing development activities throughout the city. And then this budget finalizes our preparations for hosting the 2026 World Cup, anticipated to bring over 650,000 visitors to Kansas City over 2 months. In the category of finance and governance, this is our last council goal. A few highlights here. We talked earlier about some one-time investment. This budget adds $10.2 million to replace the city's enterprise resource planning software. That's the backbone of all of our operations of the city, supporting our procurement, human resources, and financial operations. It also adds a total of $10.8 million one-time investments for for facility improvements of various city facilities to include City Hall. It continues replacement of citywide fleet at the end of its useful life to include our snow removal equipment and trash trucks, and adds $500,000 for wayfinding signage to improve accessibility and mobility across the city. There are 3 opportunities for public engagement. This is our second, so thank you again on this beautiful, feels like spring, Monday evening for coming out and spending this time with us. Our next opportunity will be this upcoming Saturday, March the 1st at 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. We'll be south at Avila at the Goppert Theater, so I would welcome you coming and attending that meeting as well. We also have opportunities online. If you go to kcmo.org, if you don't want to tell us your feedback here, or .gov, thank you. If you don't have time this evening to wait and give your feedback, if you want to tell someone that could not be here tonight, there's a Speak Easy survey on there where you can provide open-ended feedback about your priorities for Kansas City. And we provide that feedback to the City Council every week so that they can have that information as they deliberate on this budget. So with that, I will hand this back to our Finance Chair.
All right, thank you very much, Krista. We have been joined by our colleague from the 4th District, Councilman Rea. And I also meant to, as we began with our testimony, or Councilwoman Robinson from the 3rd District, I was supposed to say at the beginning, and I apologize to her that I didn't, Councilwoman Lindsay French from the 2nd District. I have to count as I go around the chambers where we sit. She was supposed to be here tonight, but her flight was delayed, and she is likely not going to arrive until after we've completed tonight. She is very sorry. She wanted to be here this evening, so I pass that along to you. So we will begin with testimony. I have sheets that you signed in, and I will call 3 names in a row. And so the microphone is over here, and if you will line up as I call your names in groups of 3, and you will have 2 minutes, and there is going to be a timer up here. And so if you will come up and give us your testimony or your comments or whatever you want to call it. The first 3 names are Jim McDonald, Jacob Wagner, and Don Adams. As soon as we get the timer up. Sorry if I squint at you, Jim. The
No worries.
light is in my eyes, so I can barely see.
It's good to see everyone.
Good. Oh, it's up
Okay,
there.
great.
Okay, go right ahead then.
Great. Hi, my name is Jim McDonald. I live in Midtown, Kansas City, and I work for United Way of Greater Kansas City. I'm here to offer testimony in support of the city's Right to Counsel program. Since its launch in 2022, thanks to the City Council, the program has provided legal representation to more than 4,000 families facing eviction in one of Kansas City's housing courts. This work has distinguished Kansas City nationally as a leader in tenants' rights, making it one of only a couple dozen jurisdictions nationwide that ensure tenants have an attorney by their side in what can be a terrifying situation, facing a judge in eviction court. United Way is honored to play a supportive role in this work in 2 important ways. First, we staff the information telephone line for tenants seeking an attorney from one of the city's legal assistance partners. United Way 211 Resource Navigators assist tenants with completing a right to counsel request form and answer questions about the program. We take dozens of calls every day from people facing eviction through this effort. Second, United Way provides financial assistance through a variety of public and private funding sources, giving right to counsel attorneys an important source of leverage when negotiating with landlords' attorneys on tenants' behalf. We're grateful to city leaders for including rental assistance in the proposed budget this year. The end of COVID era federal rent relief funds meant that the inclusion of rent assistance in the right to counsel budget is critical to the program's continued success. When rental assistance is paired with legal representation through the right to counsel program, successful outcomes for tenants are achieved in the vast majority of cases. Thank you for this opportunity to testify in support of this program.
Jacob Wagner. I'm representing Creative City KC tonight, the organization that represents the city as a UNESCO Creative City of Music. I wanted to come and thank you for your quick action to restore funding to Creative City KC so we can remain engaged. Over the last year, your support has helped us to build a team, support more than 100 local musicians and creatives who run their own business as entrepreneurs. We ran a major film and music workshop, the first time there's been a film and music workshop in Kansas City since the Missouri Film and Tax Credits. That gave more than 30 young people the opportunity to build their career in film and music. It also gave us the opportunity to connect with the Count Basie Band that will be here in Kansas City for their 90th anniversary on the International Day of Jazz. Moving forward, we're working with you, with City Council, to implement our music strategy. We're working with the film office. We're working with every city council person, talking to them about the value of music in their district. We're working out at the airport to make sure there is music at the airports when people arrive. They feel welcome and engaged with Kansas City's music history. The budget we submitted to the mayor's office was slightly more than you've allocated. We're planning on growing our funding through different revenue sources, applying for grants. We appreciate your support, and we're asking you to sustain that budget at current levels. It's critical in this year as we build up that we support local business owners, venues, musicians, and others to get ready for the World Cup. Right now, Nashville, New Orleans, and Memphis all want to be a creative city of music, and we're already there. I welcome the opportunity to talk with you if I haven't had the opportunity. Thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Dawn Adams. I'm a volunteer dog trapper in the Northland, and I'm here to represent the situation with KCPP managing animal control. I would like to urge you to consider to bring that back to be managed by the city. KCPP has flat failed. They have failed in the animal control world. For the last 4 years, we've had no accountability. You've seen the stats. You know what is going on with the lack of accountability and citations that are being written, lack of cases being brought to prosecution. We have had 4 years of disaster service that we have paid for. Kansas City has paid for and has not been delivered the service. I would like you to urge you to reconsider and bring that back to city management. Right now we have the dispatch system is broken, animal control is broken. We have animal control officers that are wonderful, however, they're not empowered. They don't have the equipment that they need. They don't have the training that they need. We've seen a complete breakdown in authority. They don't have the ability to seize an animal with cruelty and neglect, which I'm sure you'll hear a lot about tonight. I've been involved since before the city, or when the city originally had management, and now, horrific difference. I just want to be their voice, and I want to thank you. You asked us to be a voice. I want to thank you for allowing us to have a voice for the animals as well.
Thank you. I'm going to ask everyone to hold their applause, and we will applaud at the end. That will just ensure that everyone has an opportunity to speak. Kristen Wood, Scott Wilcox, and Chris Jordan.
Good evening, members of City Council and staff. I'm Kristen Wood, representing Goodwill of Western Missouri and Eastern Kansas. We're a nonprofit that has provided workforce services in Kansas City for 130 years, and we're excited to be launching a new program this year, the Excel Center Kansas City, because there are over 32,000 adults in the city who do not have high school diplomas, and that can significantly impact earnings potential for them and their family. The Excel Center is a proven model that can provide a tuition-free pathway for a true high school diploma, but not only that, it has wraparound services, on-site drop-in daycare, as well as pathways to industry-recognized credentials, post-secondary education, and jobs, and it's a proven successful model. Our friends in the St. Louis Goodwill have helped over 1,200 folks graduate high school, and 86% of them are either employed or in post-secondary education now. And the University of Notre Dame has found that people are earning 35% more 4 years after they graduate from the Excel Center. This program, we believe, aligns with some of the priorities that you talked about today. It links to public safety because when people have increased education and jobs, they are less likely to commit crimes and less likely to recidivate. And it also aligns with healthy communities because when people are employed, they're much more likely to not have adverse health impacts and more likely to have access to health insurance. So our goal is to launch this year and be serving 250 people annually on this path to economic independence. And the selection of our site is also in the 5th District. It's a place that is in an continuously distressed census tract, and we'll also be creating 20 jobs with the Excel Center. And so we're asking the city to consider investing. Any amount would be matched by private philanthropy and bring this service to our community.
My name is Scott Hickox, and I'm a longtime Kansas City resident, and I'm here to testify on behalf of Rebuilding Together Kansas City. Rebuilding Together Kansas City exists to help our most vulnerable neighbors be able to stay in their home. And we do that by doing essential home repairs and safety modifications for veterans, for seniors, for people with disabilities, and people who just can't afford it. Since our inception, we've done over $4 million of repairs in Kansas City. The good news is this last year we served 135 families. The bad news is today we have 70 Kansas City families on our waiting list that we can't serve without additional funding. I'm sure you're well aware of these statistics, but excuse me, over 70% of extremely low-income homeowners in Kansas City are cost burdened. That means they're unable to make the repairs necessary to maintain their homes. These are the people and the families that we serve. If you add to that fact, 30% of homes in Kansas City were built before 1950. We have an aging housing stock that is not only doing that, but it's falling into disrepair. In fact, the last consolidated report stated that there were 3,000 homes in Kansas City without a working bathroom or kitchen. These are the families and the people that we serve as well. The older population in Kansas City is expected to double by 2030. And there's 61,000 disabled people in Kansas City, 25% of those whom are below the poverty line. Again, these are the people and the families that we serve. The current budget has funding included for Rebuilding to Kansas City in the Housing and Healthy Communities section, and we are grateful for that. And we're just respectfully asking you all to keep those funds in the budget, in the final budget, as you approve that. The well-being of some of our most vulnerable neighbors depends on it. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Chris Jordan, and I'm here to speak on behalf of Arts KC, The Drop. As a retired senior on a fixed budget, the Drop program has been a godsend for me. I live in the rural Northland, and there isn't much to do except watch the deer and the grass grow. I don't get out of the house very much, except when I buy tickets through the Drop to attend events. My daughter, who lives near the stadium, usually joins me, and if she's unavailable, my daughter-in-law comes with me. Through the Drop, we've attended stained glass workshops, theater productions at Starlight, at KC Melting Pot, and KC Rep. We've attended music and dance performances, and several productions through the Lyric Opera. There's absolutely no way I could afford to attend these at normal pricing, and it gives me a reason to get out of the house and enjoy an evening. It also allows me to spend time with family members. I'm retired faculty from what was UMKC's School of Biological Sciences. As a scientist, I utilize critical thinking skills and analyze data and facts. Scientists don't usually use flowery language or engage in fantasy or fiction. We tend to think outside the box, but only where the data leads. The arts are so important for me to explore and develop my more creative side and to allow myself to broaden my horizons and appreciate beauty for its own sake. Often, arts and productions that we attend, guess I'm done, please help support the drop.
Bethany Jordan, Michelle Burkett, Morgan Merrill.
We're all playing the same game here. Hi, my name is Bethany Jordan, and I am also here to speak for Arts KC and the Drop. I am working at UMKC for the Block Scholars Program. This is a scholarship program that specifically targets students who otherwise might not qualify for merit scholarships, but primarily those who have financial need. Throughout all of this tonight, a lot of what we're talking about is needing that funding to be able to do something because not everybody's got that spare change in their pocket. The Drop allows our students to go and experience new things through the arts in a variety of different things that my mom had mentioned before. I am the aforementioned daughter. And so with this, I think it's really important not only to consider funding the arts, but specifically this program gives that accessibility to those who otherwise would not have it. Additionally with that, it supports the arts in multiple ways because as an artist myself, it's really important that when I'm doing a theatrical production or when I'm making artwork, that I am also paid for my time and creativity. Through the Drop, the artists don't lose out when access is given to these people. The Drop funds the tickets and pays the difference between that discounted rate of $10 per ticket to those artists, so that way they're not losing out either. And what better way to support both our community for those accessibility needs along with the artists themselves providing that arts and culture and experience for these students. I have with me, I'm not allowed to, don't know if I can submit them, but I have with me specific data. I understand you've been provided some data already, but this is specific to our program.
My name is Michelle Burkett. I'm a citizen of the KC Northland and a volunteer microchip scanner. I'm here to provide my support for accountability and change within animal services to bring it back to the city. I want animal control enforcement to not only be accountable but better. We need an entity with the power to seize neglected animals off private property that will enforce the mandatory pit bull spay and neuter ordinance, enforce leash laws, ticket negligent owners, follow up on those ticketed owners, and take more cases to court. I want there to be cooperation between animal services and the community outreach groups. Those boots on the ground groups see and know firsthand what challenges our city faces. They were there when the city ran animal services and have seen the vast difference since KCPP took over animal services. A large amount of money has already been allocated to KCPP to run animal services. They have failed us, and more importantly, they have failed the neglected animals of Kansas City the past 4 years. We can't afford to leave it with them any longer. We can't afford for this part of the budget to be sacrificed in any way. You brought up how such a large part of a budget for our city is with public safety. Well, for me, this is part of public safety. The safety of voiceless animals should be more important to an entity in charge of animal control enforcement. Kansas City deserves better. Thank you for your work, your time, and your consideration.
Good evening. My name is Morgan Merrill, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker who has been working with refugee and immigrant populations in Kansas City for the last 10 years at JBS. I'm speaking today to urge the City Council to fund and make movement toward implementing the goals outlined in Ordinance 240222, which created the Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs. I'm proud to be a part of a community that has established itself to be welcoming and inclusive, but without the implementation of leadership, internal policies, and a framework for services within the new office, it's unclear what this welcoming promise will be. Immigration policies are rapidly changing at a federal level. During this time, it's crucial more than ever for local resettlement agencies and refugee community members to be able to collaborate with city officials, access city offices, departments, boards, and communities with language access, and have a clear line of communication for advocacy and policy updates. I truly believe that our community is stronger when everyone is able to have a seat at the table, and I strongly encourage the city to follow through with the build-out of the Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs. Thank you.
Kaylee Ford, John DeSoto, Ruth Stevens.
All right. Good evening, Council. My name is Kaylee. I am from the 2nd District, and I am a leader with Sunrise Movement Kansas City, here to demand that Council stop the cuts and fund our buses. I'm just going to hold it. I'm here today because I am car burdened, and I live in a part of northern KC that does not have access to public transit, at least nothing that is reliable or safe. I live off of 35 Highway near the Clay Como Ford plant and down the road from Vivian and Shoto Traffic Way. The only bus stop is on Shoto Traffic Way, and if I wanted to get there, I would have to walk across about 20, 35 minutes on my own on roads that have no sidewalks, across 2 highway on and off ramps where there's constantly cars driving, no one is yielding, and that's how I would have to get to that bus stop. But thankfully, I have the privilege to own a car, but that in itself is also a burden. I am financially burdened by my car, spending thousands of dollars on insurance and repairs, wasting my time and money. And I actually just spent about 30 plus minutes in traffic to get here tonight because I wanted to tell this to you. I wanted to share my story and my experiences and why I need better buses for KC. You guys can be the ones to make this world better. You can be that change. You can stop this funding cut, which is over $20 million that we are losing in our bus funding, and so many routes are going to be cut. So please, we are asking you amend this budget and fund our buses. And respectfully, more people would be here tonight if they had access to public transit. Thank you.
Hello. My name is John DeSoto, and I'm a volunteer with the Kansas City Northern Miniature Railroad. It's been in existence since 1992. Last year we had a ridership of 62,000 kids and families. We are a nonprofit. We are located in Lion Creek Park, which is a 44-acre gem of a park along with Comus Parkway now. The parkway is completed. That has, because of the sidewalks that were put in, because of the new traffic, the way the roads are done now, it has just been a godsend. Kids have no problem crossing the street to get to the community center that is right across the road from us. So kudos for getting that done and making this area very safe for our kids. I've been up in the Northland since 1996. It has grown unbelievably, but along the 169 highway area, what were just trees and valleys, it's just exploded. Kids are looking for something to do, someplace to go. Lion Creek Park has a community center which has a hockey arena in it. It has baseball fields. It has the railroad, it has a miniature railroad, and we also have a model railroad. It has historic Indian trails. It has a swimming pool, baseball fields. It's all great. The only problem that we're coming into is a PIAC project that we had. We're asking for some bathrooms. Right now, we have one porta potty. We have to refer the families to the community center to use a bathroom. So if we could get some movement, on the PIAC, we'd really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Good evening, City Council members. My name is Ruth Stevens, and I am one of the hundreds of mishandled dog attacks in Kansas City under Kansas City Pet Project's management of animal control. Our dog almost died, and I suffered permanent damage to my teeth from a bite to the face, and because the owner was never held accountable for his negligence, 2 more victims suffered injuries 5 months later. Since the owner lacks insurance, we are responsible for medical bills totaling over $15,000. We no longer want our taxpayers' dollars to fund Kansas City Pet Project's version of animal control. It is in conflict of interest, and the case results are too contingent on the organization's no-kill status and feel-good optics. We need to bring animal control back under city management. This is a law enforcement division that requires close working relationships with KCPD and the prosecutor's office to make sure that ordinances already outlined in Chapter 14 are upheld. Currently, this is not happening. I know many of the officers that worked for the city 5 years ago, and they were highly trained professionals that executed their duties with pride and compassion, supported by strong leadership. We need to return to this level of accountability and transparency to ensure a safer community for all. We are also seeing an uptick of animal abuse and neglect cases due to the unenforced spay and neuter ordinances. This is unacceptable. The experiment of outsourcing animal control has failed. It is time to bring it back under city management once again. Thank you for your time.
Kendra Wyatt, Richard Henderson, and Jane Brown.
Hello, my name is Kendra Wyatt. I'm here as a mom who lives down the street. And in fact, if anybody wants to help us pick up a mattress that I just noticed on 96th Street, we can do that tomorrow during the day. When educating citizens about the budget, I encourage you all to use examples of our property tax receipts so we directly connect, how we pay our taxes with our programming. So that is, I think, an opportunity. I do want to note Kansas City ranks 3rd in the nation in percent of our employees being federal employees. I encourage you to expect cuts, expect impoundments, expect firings, expect layoffs. That is going to make a difference to our city. So as I heard you thinking about, gosh, COVID, it changed things, I'm like, I don't think things are rosy, guys. We have the 3rd largest percent of federal employees in the country. We should also expect Medicaid cuts. I mean, they just passed that bill, right? $800 billion. And specifically, the president's executive order ending taxpayer subsidization of open borders threatens EMTALA funding, which is how we pay for birth. We're talking about moms having babies here. So I do encourage you to look at the safety net funding and the employee health trust funding as a block. To my knowledge, we haven't used that power to put that funding to the safety net providers and the health trust, the employee health trust, insurance funding together to say, hey, community, we can't keep operating like things are normal, because it's just not. I would like to see a budget commitment to holding our hospitals, providers, and its insurance plans accountable for healthy pregnancies and birth. This was really something that the city led on, and I think it should and continue, and just do not take any quarter from that. We need, whether it's Make America Healthy Again or whatever, let's have healthy pregnancies and births in this town. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Richard Henderson. I just wanted to start by thanking you guys all for being here in our beautiful facility, and thank you, Councilman Willett, for all the work you're doing for our area here. I'm here to speak on behalf of the athletic swimming community in Kansas City. I have the privilege in my job, which is not related to swimming, to travel all over the country and all over the world, and I talk about all the things that are happening in Kansas City all the time. I wear a Heart KC pin just to start conversations about our city, and I love what you guys are doing, so thank you. One thing that I travel for as well outside of work is to attend my son's swim meets. He's a competitive swimmer at a national level, and we're going all over the country consistently to go to swim facilities in communities like Kansas City, but Kansas City doesn't have a facility at the competition level that's required. So I'm just here to talk on and advocate on behalf of the community and say, I think we have an opportunity. I think swimming is a phenomenal sport for many reasons that may be obvious to most people, but I think investing in this sport is an opportunity for Kansas City and particularly the Northland. Just some key considerations are if there's any opportunity to partner with a data center project, there's some energy sharing that can happen. Pool facilities often need to be heated, and a big problem in data centers is that they need to get rid of heat. So some of the more progressive thoughts around the world are building these facilities on common allocated land. If there's anything around the stadiums as we consider how we're going to fund in Kansas City, anything that could be tagged along with that would be obviously appreciated. And then finally, I would just say, swimming, when we do have a competitive facility, there's a lot of tourism associated with it. And we would be bringing in the kinds of people that I see at swim meets all over the world. So thank you guys for your consideration.
Hello, Jane Brown, 1st District. I'm not representing anyone, I just missed you all. In less than 2 minutes, I have 3 topics, but they're all short. I noticed some money in the budget for signage, and I'm not sure what you're using that on, but I hope you will work with the Missouri Highway Department and get new census signs along our highways. Our signs that are posted for the population of Kansas City are about 13 to 14 years old, and during COVID, because we had less than 500,000 people, which is what all those signs still say, we had to go to 3 different counties to beg for our city COVID money. I don't want that to ever happen again. So we have at least 508,000 based on the 2020 census, and based on the growth of this part of the Northland, I suspect it's about 540,000 now. Second, I heard somebody talk about the Right to Counsel program. I echo my support. As a retired judge, the most difficult time somebody's in a courtroom, there's 3 of them. When they're charged with a crime, when they're going through a divorce, or when they're being evicted. All very stressful times. If we can help, let's do it. Finally, 11.7% increase for public safety. Is the Kansas City Police Department receiving their full ask from every single revenue source? Thank you.
Beth Wilkes, Becca Craig, and Ed Kale.
Hi, thank you for your time and thank you for being here tonight. So I am a teacher in the North Kansas City School District, and I have a concern about the snow and the cold that we've had that has led to 11 inclement weather days. There are at least 2 or 3 days that I can recollect that had we had better snow removal in the Northland, that our students would have been able to attend school. I live in a new neighborhood, Sarah's Meadow. We have not had sufficient snow removal in our neighborhood. The snowplow came through last Thursday after 4:30 p.m. And so we had been there all week long with no snowplows. I also know that Benson Place in the Northland and Pine Grove in the Northland and Northview Place have all sustained the same feelings of being trapped in their home and unable to get out. Our buses are not safe on those roads when they are not able to be accessed by plows. Thursday night, we went downtown for an event. There was a Kansas City, Missouri plow driving around while the streets downtown looked beautiful. There was no snow anywhere, but yet our neighborhoods hadn't even been touched yet. So if you could work on getting some more snow removal to our Northland so we can ensure that these students get to school where they need to be, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Hi, thank you all for being here today, and thank you for everyone coming to share what's important to them. My name is Becca Craig, and I am a resident of the 6th District, as well as an advocate for those hundreds of thousands of residents of Kansas City that actually cannot be here tonight to voice for themselves. I am here to ask and plead and vehemently stress the importance of insourcing animal control to the city and to give as much funding as needed and is required by the Director of Neighborhood Services and Community Engagement, because this is a public safety issue. This is a health and human services issue. We don't have time. We don't have time to mess around with this. In fact, I know how much we love printed budgets and printed evidence, and I really appreciate it. I'm the same way. I like striking and highlighting and all that stuff. And so what I have done on behalf of the nearly 1,000 people that have signed a petition to insource and fund animal control by the city of Kansas City, as well as various press releases, news articles, and attention that is garnered, is from 2023 to 2024, 108 graphic pages of the failure of KC Pet Project to enforce and protect the animals and the residents of the city. Need I remind the council that not just one, but multiple people have lost their lives to vicious animal attacks that didn't need to lose their lives to that. There's no such thing as a bad dog, just bad owners. And I'm asking you and pleading with you to please take a look of 2023 to 2024, and I'm happy to come back with 2020 and 21 and 22. They are graphic, and it's pretty awful. But I'm going to give this to you tonight so you can review it, and I look forward to seeing an directly expanded budget and result of this conversation tonight. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ed Kyle. I'm a resident in the 1st District, but a member of Trinity United Methodist Church in Hyde Park. Our group is united in a concern that's underneath so many issues, and that is housing. And we're delighted to see that Housing and Healing Communities is a section of the budget, and there are many things there to affirm. The affordable housing program, as long as it's targeting people in poverty, low-income workers, working-class folks, and elderly and disabled people. We want to affirm the right to counsel that you've had, and also the work on source of income discrimination. That's really important to the folks in our neighborhoods as we work with that. The long-term now healthy housing initiative and the ability of people to report the failure of landlords and slumlords to maintain property that they have their investment in is really important to us. We also have deep concerns for the houseless population, which seems to be growing, and after this dreadful weather we've had in the last couple of weeks, we know there's a tremendous need. And around the country, it's been proven that a very effective lead strategy is just get people housed, and then you can allocate services to them. But we're also concerned about this section of the budget on inclusive growth and development. The approach to development seems to have been profit-driven luxury development. Up here in the Northland, we got all this luxury stuff going on. At the same time, we've got houseless people and we've got working folks who are housing burdened. That's more than the 30% of their income. So local versus absentee landlords, maybe look at KC Tenant's social housing concept as an alternative to the kind of development that produces gentrification, speculation, and luxury. Thank you very much.
Phil Ryan. Orchid Martin, Gideon Madison.
Good evening. My name is Phil Ryan. I live in District 1. My big concern is with KCPP and the amount of dogs that have been neglected, the unsafe dogs that are out there, and what they have not been doing. I volunteer with different animal rescue groups, trying to help them out, and it's just been a nightmare seeing the dogs that are left to be abused. KCPP will go out multiple times and just leave the dog there with the abusers. One of the dogs that I have adopted, that I fostered, was in an abusive home and returned 4 different times. The dog was a great dog, but they were going to put it down because of the abuse. It took about 3 years to work with the dog, so it could be out in the public, and it wasn't it's no longer a dangerous dog anymore. But we just need to get it back into city services. I've seen what the city did when they had control of the animal control, and I encourage you just to bring it back into city services.
I have depression, so ignore it. I am medicated. First of all, I love Kansas City. Okay. I'll start over. Ignore, I have depression. I am medicated. First of all, I love Kansas City. You're doing a great job, okay? I'm 67. I make $700 a month after my Medicare of $185. My sewer is clogged. I poop in plastic Ziploc bags, and then I bury it out in my short acre. I have 2 repairs under a 3-lane street and 2 sidewalks, all in the easement area. Therefore, if it weren't in the easements, my friends would just go fix it, and it's not on my property, so I'm liable. The estimate is almost $40,000, and I have it, if you don't believe me. I would simply lose my home if I have to make this repair. I have no choice.
Hello, council members. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Gideon Madison. I'm a Kansas City born and raised actor. I'm here representing the UNESCO Film and Music Group and their wonderful workshop that I attended this past June. I'm going to read off an Instagram post of me detailing my experience at the event. This past June, I had the amazing opportunity to be a part of the Foresight Film and Music Workshop hosted by Creative KC, UNESCO City of Music. I got a chance to learn from industry professionals from both film and music industries. I was able to reunite with old collaborators in the KC film community that worked on my very first 2 short films. Jarrell Washington, Devontae Brown. They are very, very great creatives here that are doing great work. Please keep creating, continuing to support the arts here as the Kansas City Film Tax Incentive Bill keeps going up. We have great talent here, but there are many people that are continuing to leave because they want to see greater opportunities to excel within their art form. I got to meet great people like Willie D. Burton, who is a two-time Oscar winner and 8-time nominee, works on Roots, Oppenheimer, right here in Kansas City. That was phenomenal for me. I want that for more creatives here in the city. That is very important. I never thought I would even get a chance to meet someone like that. He is a Black creator. There were so many people, people of color that were at this event that are creating and continue to create things here in Kansas City. So I would love for creatives coming up, that there are people that never acted before, never been a part of anything in terms of being a musician or film, that were going into this workshop, meeting these people. It is a great opportunity. Please continue to support the arts within this city. We need you. Thank you so much.
Thomas Miller, Brent Bender, Lauren Weinhold.
All right. Good evening, City Council. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Thomas Miller. I own a company called Building Capacity, LLC, and I work with commercial contractors in Kansas City. And my initiative is to drop the gun and pick up a tool. So we have one of the most largest generating businesses in Kansas City, Missouri, which is the Kansas City Royals and the Kansas City Chiefs Stadium, which are in the 5th District. Have we been funding projects that are not in the best interest of the minorities and the underrepresented people in the 5th and the 3rd District? To what I understand, it's about 1% goes to the 3rd and the 5th District for redevelopment. What we're proposing is an initiative that will fund workforce development, training, monitoring, and in addition to emerging businesses and accounting, construction bidding, insurance, licensings for minorities, and make this the #1 tool for business expansion and retention. Strategic workforce development is one of the best schools, in my opinion, that I've seen. They've got an 85% success rate of students being hired by unions and contractors as they face a lack of transportation from the students to get to work. What we don't want is the prime contractors like J.E. Dunn and McCowan and Gordon and Turner not to buy in, with a record of hiring less than 5% Black commercial contractors and hiring out-of-state contractors to typically take their profits back to the state that they came from without Kansas City, Missouri taxing their spendings because we have a lack of workforce. Keep the work local, and the initiative is to drop the gun and pick up a tool. And I see $2.5 million is what we need for that. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. Brett Bendor. I'm a concerned citizen, live in the 1st District. I work downtown. I'm here about the bus service cuts. I don't really quite understand when that's the only public transportation service that services the entire city. And it's been hamstrung by not being allowed to charge a fare for the last 4 years. Why we're cutting the budget so much. And we could take the funding from Vision Zero that has ruined traffic downtown and move that over. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for investing time and resources to hear from residents and taxpayers during this budgeting process. My name is Lauren Weinhold, and I'm a proud 6th District resident. But I'm here tonight, however, in my capacity as Chief External Affairs Officer with Jewish Vocational Service. I'm here to express support for the Office of Refugee and Immigrant Affairs as created in 2024 under Ordinance 240222. As my colleague Morgan so eloquently articulated, the office was created and funded last year, but has yet to be staffed and built out. In addition to making Kansas City a place where all can thrive, including our newest neighbors, there are economic benefits for investing in this office. Supporting refugees and immigrants aligns economically with all 5 of the council's funding priorities. As of 2024, there are over 11,000 immigrant entrepreneurs in Kansas City. And though that population is 43% more likely to open a small business than you or I. Refugees and immigrants contribute $1.3 billion in taxes paid and have over $3.5 billion in spending power. Refugees and immigrants who now call Kansas City home are predominantly of working age. Approximately 79.5% of them are of working age, and that's in comparison to the national average of 62.6% being of working age. And the foreign-born workforce is eager to work, making up 5.1% of the workforce in Kansas City, despite representing only 4.2% of the population. So thank you for the opportunity, and I urge you to follow through on the city's commitment to the aforementioned Office of Refugee and Immigrant Affairs. Thank you.
Sharita Jackson, Joseph Nelson, and Erica Carper.
Do I just go? Okay. Hello, my name is Sharita Jackson, born and raised in Kansas City, Missouri. I've been a taxpayer since the age of 16. I am currently the financial secretary for the union members of the Amalgamated Transit Union, Local 1287, which are the operators, the maintenance, and the clerical employees. As an employee of public mass transportation, I am unsure why there is a question why the city will fund the bus services. If future cuts happen to the bus services, it will cripple our already declining bus services, like in Independence and Kansas City North. With $1 million budget for trees, I could potentially need one if I lose my job and become homeless. So please, council people, fund the buses and the service needed to keep our city moving. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, City Manager, council members, and fellow residents. My name is Joe Nelson, and I'm here to advocate for investments in universal pre-K, housing, aging support, public transit, and small business growth. First, universal pre-K. So education funding is shrinking. Federal budget cuts threaten early childhood programs, while Missouri recently cut $10 million from the Close the Gap grant program and faces $100 million education shortfall. But for every dollar that's invested in universal pre-K, you get a return of $7 in long-term benefits, higher graduation rates, lower crime, and stronger local economies. Kansas City must fully fund universal pre-K. Environmental justice and housing investments. So many homes struggle with high energy costs, poor insulation and flooding risk, while hundreds of vacant land bank lots sit undeveloped. We need large-scale mitigation, energy upgrades, infrastructure fixes, and flood prevention, and streamline the land bank access for local residents. These investments lower costs and create housing opportunities. Kansas City is not aging friendly, with 20% of our population expected to be 65 or older by 2030. Kansas City lacks accessible housing, reliable senior transit, and safe sidewalks. Funding must prioritize age-friendly housing and mobility solutions to help residents age in place. Public transit and inclusive hiring, better transit fuels, job growth, and stronger local economies. We must invest in better bus service, safer sidewalks, and improved crossings. Additionally, KCATA should hire local residents with disabilities to help manage and improve transit services, ensuring accessibility for all. Increased funding for KC BizCare. Small businesses are vital to our economy, but many struggle with city processes. KC BizCare helps entrepreneurs start and grow, and increased funding will expand access to capital, reduce red tape, and create more jobs. So by aligning funding with proven high-impact strategies, we build a stronger, more inclusive Kansas City. Thanks.
Erica, are you here? Yes, sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi, I'm Erica Carper, and I'm a resident in the Northland in the 1st District. My at-large is Kevin O'Neill. I'm a big fan of him. Nathan Willett, I hope you're the new guy. I look forward to you earning my vote next year. And maybe you can have a chat with Melissa Robinson. You know, the mayor, old mayor, kind of apologized to her, telling her everything you said about KCPP not being up to the task to run animal control, unfortunately, has turned out to be accurate. I've been doing outreach on Chain of Hope with Chain of Hope for going on 13 years this summer. We quickly, we're in the hood, giving out food. 90% 90% of the dogs that I see or 90% of the animals I see are dogs, mostly pit mixes, on chains 24/7. We give them igloos, we give them straw in the winter, we give them crates to bring the house inside. Our only requirement is you get your dog fixed and you don't get another dog. We will pick up your dog, we will get it fixed for free, and we'll bring it back that night. You're welcome to Kansas City, Missouri. But I say all that to say that when I started, the city had animal control and it was horrible. And we called for leadership change. And leadership finally changed. They had done an internal audit that they released much later. I think a couple times the auditors had to call the leadership's bosses to say, these dogs are going to die. They've been left in a house with no utilities. It's 96 degrees. There's no food and water. And we think they might be dead. And so that changed, and the animal control, after a little transition period, it was working. I remember saying so many times, this is how it should be. KCPP brought us right back to their worst. Now they just leave tickets open so they can say that it's under investigation instead of closing them. Besides not enforcing, they're paid money to enforce ordinances. They didn't agree with the spay and neuter one. They said, we're not going to enforce it. Excuse me.
I have two names left, Evie Craig and Nehemiah Roselle. If you want to testify and I haven't called your name, then go ahead and come and line up beside the last two, and you can testify as well.
Okay, good evening. I'm sorry you have to hear me again, but I have my speech down to 2 minutes. So I just want to show you I can be compliant sometimes. Good evening. I'm Evie Craig, president of the Passaic West Neighborhood Association in the 3rd Council District and executive director of the Arts Asylum in the 6th Council District. And we are very grateful for the DROP program, by the way. I have handouts that I will give you after this meeting. I think it's important that you see this visually. This is blown up from a map that was in a edition of the Northeast News. From November 2024 through January of 2025, Northeast Kansas City and its surrounding areas experienced a total of 78 structure fires, and there have been more this month. One of our biggest concerns is in addressing this near epidemic of fires is to find a comprehensive, coordinated response from the various city offices responsible. For instance, the fire department has protocols that prevent them from responding to barrel fires or fires near encampments, on parks or rec property without express permission, or on railroad property. In this huge, sprawling city, that leaves a lot of fires that are not attended to. We need a clear understanding on the following: coordinated strategies to prevent fires, how to engage with the fire department, are they amenable to changing some of those protocols, standardized and effective methods for boarding up buildings. In the Independence Plaza neighborhood in Scarrett, residents themselves are boarding up buildings. Not only is that dangerous, but that just isn't right. Consistency and accountability in homelessness services. In many of these homes, we have people who are camping in them to find shelter, and we've had the homeless services team go out. We don't know if they've been out there to find a better place for these individuals who are putting themselves at great risk. Not only have people died and firefighters been injured, we've lost single-family homes, businesses, oh gosh, and apartment buildings. So what we would ask is, as you look for your increased contract for the fire department, and we appreciate that, we appreciated the one you gave them in August, that you be able to put on the table with them, can we talk about these concerns and putting public safety always first? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nehemiah Roselle. I'm a KC Mill resident in Midtown. I come to speak about the need to prioritize homelessness efforts. I work in the field but come today as a private citizen. Last year, 2024, was a record year for the number of unhoused individuals nationally. Homelessness went up for every population except for one, and that is veterans. So why is that? We nationally and locally have prioritized and provided greater resources and coordination for homeless vets. They have more options for emergency shelter and permanent housing. And we have also seen that locally in KC, the highest numbers of individuals unhoused last year in over a decade, with also similar reductions in veteran homelessness. So the good news is if we can do this for veterans, Despite the economic and societal factors pushing more and more people to the street, we can do it for all populations. It provides a roadmap. All we need to do is provide sufficient resources to get it done. Other cities like Houston have shown that big cities are able to make meaningful reductions in homelessness, but only when city government provides strong leadership and financial resources. This is essential. And I know the city has a great plan, the Zero KC plan to end homelessness, but this plan needs to be a priority and needs to be funded to become a reality. So what do we need? We first of all need a robust and dignified low-barrier emergency shelter system. The winter emergency shelters that we have here in the city have been essential in keeping people safe for the past few months, and they have served over 1,800 unique individuals. And I think that number itself shows the need for these low-barrier shelters to be funded year-round. We also need expanded street outreach services so that we can reach out to the hundreds and hundreds of people who are unsheltered where they're at. And finally, we need more affordable housing, because research shows the greatest factor correlating with rates of homelessness is the affordability and availability of housing. So please, let's prioritize ending homelessness, because we must remember that homelessness is a crisis, it's an injustice, and that we're able to end homelessness if we prioritize it. Thank you.
All right, is there anyone else who would like to speak?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nick Miller. I am the president of the Amalgamated Transit Union, Local 1287, which represents the bus company here. You all are probably tired of seeing my face and hearing me talk about we have a shortfall. Something needs to be done about this budget. And I'm hearing you all talk about the safety out here. You have to keep in mind that the buses actually help with the safety, because as you start reducing service, where do you think these people are going to go? They're going to be out here on the streets. You're going to start creating more chaos out here. Some of the other things we have to look at, we have 150 jobs that perhaps are at stake right now. This is going to increase your unemployment. When you start reducing service, you have to start looking at the economic value or impact this is going to have on the city. So I'm here advocating once again that the city fully fund the bus service and have dedicated funding to KCATA. Thank you all for your time.
Hi there, my name is Drew. I'm a resident of Council, or District 4 of Kansas City, Missouri, and I know tonight you guys have heard a lot of stories, and rightfully so, but I know a lot of your job comes down to the numbers. So here's some numbers for you. Every $1 billion invested in public transit supports 49,700 jobs and generates $5 billion in economic output from the FTA 2025. Every $1 invested in public transit yields $5 in economic returns through business expansion, increased consumer spending, and congestion relief. APTA 2020. 61% of Kansas City citizens agree that regional investments should be made in public transit. From MARC 2024. KCATA is the only peer transit agency within the United States Midwest region which saw ridership per vehicle hour increase in the 2016 through 2022 period, a notable figure considering the pandemic we all lived through. Peer Regional Transit Report 2023. Finally, there's two more. KCATA is the third lowest cost per trip and was the second most productive agency in terms of trips per revenue per hour among peer transit agencies. Peer Regional Transit Report 2023. Finally, this proposed budget allocates $70 million for KCATA. Last year, $113 million was the total provided to the city of Kansas City, Missouri for the KCATA service. The funding gap proposed by this budget is real, and it will be substantial, and it will be felt by thousands of Kansas Cityans if you guys don't do something. So please do everything you can to prevent this as much as you can. Thank you, and that's all.
Good evening. Forrest asked me if I was going to testify tonight, and I said, not that I know of, so I changed my mind. My name is Jenny Walters, and I'm here as president of the Maple Park neighborhood. I tell people that we are the neighborhood with the Worlds of Fun Tower in it. We are also an older neighborhood, and like many neighborhoods, as Crispin Ray knows, we're like Shamir, we have very few sidewalks. We have over 3,000 residents in our neighborhood. And so though I appreciate having priority given to sidewalks that lead to schools, we have 2 schools in our neighborhood. And I tell people I can write PIAC grants till the day I die. I'll be 72 tomorrow. Till the day I die, and we still will not have a neighborhood of sidewalks. And by the time we get done, we'll need to be asking for PIAC grants to repair those sidewalks. I know it's a big issue throughout the city and many older neighborhoods, and I think we need to look for more aggressive means to provide our neighborhoods with sidewalks. Our neighborhood you cannot walk our neighborhood because of the hills, the narrow roads, and the lack of sidewalks. So I just would like to maybe find another avenue to provide sidewalks, not just in our neighborhood, but throughout the city. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Phil, and we all talked about a bunch of different things, but I want to talk about these potholes, these roads. Okay, you said that we got a World Cup coming in 2016, correct? Or 2026, right? So that's about a year from now. And we got these potholes that are just out of control. They've been neglected. There's what they call a freeze-thaw cycle, where when winter hits, water gets into it, it freezes, it cracks, and then there's a crack there, a car hits it, and now you got a pothole. And we all got our differences tonight. We spoke about animals, we spoke about housing, we spoke about all different things, but we all got to drive home tonight, and we're all going to be driving on roads, and these potholes are getting ridiculous. I just got a text from my nephew about an hour ago saying in Westport, he lives down in the Westport area, there's a pothole so big that somebody got a sign and made it out of cardboard and stuck it next to the pothole with some fluorescent paint to try and show motorists not to hit it down in Westport. But these potholes are bad, and what's really sad is we've got some of the best equipment money can buy. I know we got a lot of revenue, and we got good equipment, good trucks. All the trucks are brand new. They ain't got no scratches on them or nothing. And I don't know, these potholes just got to be dealt with. And if 2026 comes and we don't address these potholes between now and the next year, and then we have the World Cup, what'd you say, 2 months? We're going to have almost 600,000 people here, and we got these look like a third world country potholes. That's not going to be good. But like I said, we all got our differences, but we're all going to drive home tonight, and we want to get home safe and not hit a pothole so big where it breaks your tie rod or breaks your lower control arm or something. And then we talk about public safety. These potholes getting addressed is public safety. Have a good evening.
Great. I don't see anybody else lining up, so I just want to thank everyone for coming out. We do have a lot of, I'm sorry, we're done.
I was going to say, when you fix a pothole, you're going to shut down traffic. I'll say 20 seconds. You got to saw it, you got to cut it out, you got to break out the loose material, you got to put a seal in there, you put the patch material in, and then you smash it, and then you seal it again, it's done. But just to throw some asphalt on top of the loose material, it ain't gonna last but a month and it'll be gone.
All right, thank you. I just want to thank everyone who came out. There are a lot of topics that we discussed tonight, and there are a lot of these topics that we have been discussing as a council, and that you reinforce the visions and the goals that you have, and you help us to, as we debate the budget, you help us to inform the decisions that we are going to make. And we really appreciate you being here tonight, taking your time on a beautiful evening. Our last budget meeting, it was a little bit cold. So the fact that you came out and spent some of your time with us tonight, we appreciate it. I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues again. I'm going to start on the end since Councilman Rea and Councilwoman Robinson, oh, you have a microphone, didn't get the opportunity to speak at the beginning, and let them wrap up.
Great, thank you. I don't have much to add other than I want to thank you all for coming out and sharing your priorities as we make important decisions for the budget. And my commitment is to work with my colleagues, both here and who are not here, to make sure we pass a budget that spends our dollars wisely, that honors the things that you've addressed as being important, that ultimately makes our city safer, cleaner, and more livable. Thank you all for coming.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you again for coming to really just speak truth to power and to share what your priorities are. I often share with my constituents that, you know, being in the seat is a collaborative team sport, and we definitely depend on the public to help us and be a part of the team to help us make these difficult choices and these difficult decisions. So again, thank you all so much for coming out and being a part of the team. And please look for these priorities to be reflected in the budget when we pass the budget. So stay in here with us and continue to speak up and share your truth.
Thank you so much, everybody, for your comments tonight. As we started this session, we talked about the structural imbalance that we know that we have. And, you know, we have tough jobs here because you all haven't said anything tonight, and we didn't hear anything on the first day that I wouldn't consider funding. I think all of us would support that, but we know there's not enough money to go around. And so the priority-based budgeting process will be in full effect as we evaluate all of the initiatives, all of the projects, programs, additional funding requests that you all brought this evening. But thank you so much. And I will say, while some of this is hard to look at, I do appreciate the graphics that you all bring because, you know, our city, we're 316 miles or how many ever miles it is, and we are really spread out. And for those of us who are in district council members, don't have an opportunity to see everything. So your voice matters. I do need to say one thing. Those of you who complained about potholes and things like that, please make sure you're putting that information into 311. Go into the 311 app because they are working to fill those potholes now that the weather is nice. And Miss Jenny, happy birthday. Thank you.
Thanks again. I'm Nathan Willett, First District Council, and up here. I want to thank all my colleagues. We have someone from every single council district up here on the stage tonight, so I appreciate making it a priority to come up to District 1. I do want to talk about, it's not just about funding what we put into the budget, it's also how we administer the programs. I know we've had people talk about the buses tonight, and just a little feedback. We did come back, I mean, we were getting federal grants to do the zero fare transit. We no longer have the federal grants for that, and we got to look at our system to see, do we want to, charge fares to do need-based? So if you can't afford a fare, maybe you can go and get that picked up at a CAN center or some community center. But we're losing out $12 million on revenue for our buses. And so especially if you are someone who would need to ride or can't afford to ride on the bus, right now you just get on the bus yourself right now. But I believe those people who can't afford the buses should be getting that pass from a service or some individual out there so they can have connection, human connection, because right now what we're having is a tragedy of the commons on our buses. So yes, it's cut 20 million in there, but we're also losing out on $12 million of revenue that could come in there. You're also losing out on corporations and grants that used to come into our buses as well. I know that everyone is concerned about budget cuts coming in from different grants. I'm excited. I mean, I've been working with my colleagues to help secure current grants coming in before they could potentially be cut. So I appreciate Chairwoman Boo, and thank you all for being here.
Well, one more down, one more to go. I just want to again thank you all for coming out, sharing your concerns, sharing your priorities with us, because your priorities will be our priorities as well. So I will be very brief and just say thank you once again, and we do have another one coming up. Welcome to come out to that one and share it again, because number one, I think the more you hear things over, the more it sticks with you. And I know that the buses have been ongoing ever since that we started the budget hearings. I'm sure we'll hear about it again. But I say that, and I don't say that lightly, because it is a very serious concern. The bus system and those routes will affect the least people that can afford it, or that the areas that can least afford those cuts taking place. So we have to really consider that, because those people will be impacted the most. So I think that we as a council will take that into very serious consideration when we look at this budget, and we will try to do the best that we can with the limited amount of resources that we got. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Wes Rogers, who probably has a lot to say because he wasn't here from the beginning.
So I learned a long time ago when I was trying cases, the person who talks the least is normally the favorite person. And my name is Wes Rogers, 2nd District. All I have to say is thank you guys for being here. Kansas City is such a great place to live. The reason it's a great place to live is because we have people like you who care enough to come up to the library on a Tuesday night and tell us what you think. So thank you.
All right, and with that, it's a wrap. So thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your evening.